Stop coaching like it's 1985. Adaptive coaching and the science of performance. Somewhere along the way, coaching became performance art. Yelling, punishment, conditioning until athletes puke. And everybody just kind of accepted it because it looked tough. But here's the problem. What coaching looks like and what coaching does are not always the same thing. Fear can create short-term compliance, but compliance is not the same thing as adaptive performance. Athletes who fear humiliation, punishment, embarrassment, or losing their coach's approval often stop adapting, communicating honestly, trusting themselves, and performing fluidly under pressure. They get tight, rigid, reactive, and then we call them mentally weak. But what if the environment itself is part of the problem? William Abernathy, author of The Sin of Wages, once demonstrated something powerful about behavior and leadership. In his original exercise, he used 2 rats to show the difference between positive and negative reinforcement. One rat learned through positive reinforcement, shaping behavior with food rewards. The other learned through negative reinforcement, escaping shock by pressing a bar. The shock, relief, fear method worked faster. The guards watching the demonstration immediately noticed that negatively reinforced rats learned quicker and cost less effort. But something happened. When one of the guards reached into the negatively reinforced rat's cage, the rat bit him. Abernathy's lesson was unforgettable. You can get fast compliance through fear and pressure, but you may create individuals who don't trust you and don't want to be around you. Now imagine the same principle in sports and coaching. One coach uses punishment, pressure, and conditioning in an attempt to gain player compliance and to train attention. Miss the assignment? Run. Drop the ball? Run. Goofing off after a tough loss? More running. The athletes learn quickly how to avoid consequences. They comply fast. Practices may even look disciplined from the outside. But beneath the surface, players may begin losing trust in both their coaches and the training process itself. A likely outcome of this approach is that game-related stimuli start to evoke fear and tension, causing athletes to tighten up in an effort to avoid disappointing the coach or triggering additional punishment through more running. Another coach uses shaping, trust, encouragement, clarity, and reinforcement. The learning may appear slower at first, but because the coach is building understanding, confidence, and a relationship instead of fear, over time, athletes begin taking risks, communicating honestly, supporting teammates, and staying emotionally connected to the coach. And that's the difference. Negative reinforcement can produce fast behavior change, but trust-based coaching produces people who still want to be around you after the season ends. As William Abernathy demonstrated, the question isn't just, did the behavior change? The deeper question is, what kind of relationship did the process create? John Gagliardi, the winningest college football coach ever. He reduced unnecessary punishment and fear. His approach? Winning with no. Imagine a college football program that ran practices with no blocking sleds or dummies. No compulsory weightlifting programs. No whistles. No coach. Players called him John. No tackling in practice. Repeat. No tackling in practice. No long practices. Practices were 90 minutes or less. And there's another brilliant coaching legend lurking in the shadows of my hometown, quietly producing a program of champions. Coach Tony Walker. 15 state championships, 43 individual state champions. Built a culture around trust, connection, confidence, and adaptive pressure. Not intimidation, not emotional chaos. Trust first, then training. Because eventually, athletes have to trust the repertoire. Not just want it more. Actually trust their preparation, their skills, their breathing, their routines, their ability to function under pressure. And that changes how we train. Adaptive coaching doesn't just throw athletes into panic and call it toughness. It builds fluency progressively. Like learning to swim in the ocean. You don't just throw somebody into massive swells and waves on day one and scream, "Be mentally tough." No, you start in a calm pool. Then, small resistance. Then, bigger resistance. Then, more pressure. Until eventually, the athlete learns, I can still function while resistance is present. That's fluency. And great coaches understand something else too. You don't coach the scoreboard. Coaches always told us, turn off the scoreboard. But then they kept reminding us it was there. Adaptive coaching actually turns it off. Not because results don't matter, but because obsessing over short-term outcomes often disrupts the very process producing long-term success. And maybe no modern sports example captured this philosophy better than the Billy Beane error of the Oakland Athletics. Everybody criticized their system. Every loss became evidence that this process was wrong. People mocked the approach, questioned the data, questioned the philosophy, but internally, the A's stayed committed to the process because adaptive systems don't panic every time the scoreboard fluctuates. They trust probabilities over time. And eventually, that philosophy produced one of the longest winning streaks in baseball history. In the movie version of Billy Beane's new approach with the Oakland A's, Billy is challenged by his frustrated head scout Grady. Grady pushes back hard against the idea that baseball can be managed through numbers and science. He argues that you can't dismiss over a century of wisdom and intuition. To paraphrase him, he says, you don't put a team together with a computer. Baseball isn't just numbers and science. There are intangibles only baseball people understand. And Billy responds with a single line that perfectly captures adaptive performance. Adapt or die. Not because tradition has no value, but because environments change. And when the game changes, rigid systems eventually collapse. The coaches, the players, and organizations that survive are the ones willing to adapt. Because rigidity breaks under pressure. Old systems eventually collapse when environments change. And great coaches understand something critical. The goal is not to preserve tradition. The goal is to produce adaptive performers. Not athletes who only function when comfortable, when praised, when conditions are perfect, or when confidence is high, but athletes who can adjust, recover, recalibrate, and continue functioning effectively, even when resistance appears. That's adaptive performance. So maybe the future of coaching isn't softness. And maybe it isn't fear-based toughness either. Maybe it's just this. Build trust. Train skills systematically. Increase resistance gradually. Train fluency under pressure and create environments where athletes can adapt. Because pressure doesn't create greatness. Pressure reveals where fluency ends. And great coaching helps athletes adapt beyond that point. Adaptive performance coaching. Trust first. Train second. Adapt always.